Hey there folks, this is Raleigh Cosplay. This is a super short video on scaling and modifying armor pieces to fit your body. I received a really excellent question about this, and so I just wanted to share some information with you. So basically, looking at sources for existing armor, you can either make your own. My other tutorials talk about that. But the question was, let's say you found a set of armor pieces, gauntlets or a breastplate on someplace like Thingiverse, or maybe you've purchased it from Etsy. That's fabulous, but then what if you get it, you print it out, you find it doesn't actually fit your body? Blender is a great tool for changing that fit. Before dealing with the Blender parts, though, some basic things to think about when you're trying to fit 3D prints, which have no flexibility, to your body, which does have flexibility, right? So you want to think about how are these pieces going to interface with your body and with each other. So instead of a single large breastplate, perhaps there want to be hinges in it, there want to be points of connection. Whoever has designed that, if you're getting this from Etsy or what have you, has probably thought of that and built that in, but it's something you want to keep in mind, that you move, but 3D prints simply do not. One technique is to take 1mm EVA foam and use that as a backing piece, because that's going to bend, and then all of your sort of plates and pieces can be sort of suspended on that like a skin. The other thing I will say that has nothing to do with Blender, but with the process, is you want to prototype. Do not think you're going to fix this all in Blender, print it out, and it'll be ready to go. If you're having to scale a piece of pre-purchased armor, expect to print that out 3 to 5 times, because you're going to want to print it out to get a sense of, okay, how big actually is this? You can have all the measurements, but until you actually see it and feel it in the real world, you're not going to see how those measurements really interface with your body. So you want to print it out, try it on, take tons of measurements, use centimeters for this, like where is it tight, where is it loose, where will it not fit at all, where does it need to bend, and then make some modifications, print it out again, make modifications, print it out again. The great thing about 3D printing is it allows for fast prototyping. You should never think of, whenever using a 3D printer, as a set it and forget it type of thing. The 3D printer, like any other part of this hobby, is about iteration. It's about trying something, doesn't work, adjust it, try it again, adjust it, try it again, until you have the piece that you actually want. So I would build in enough time to print it out 3 to 5 times and prototype it and adjust it as you go. And don't get frustrated by that. That's just part of the process. And of course, you can make all kinds of modifications for those prototyped ones. You can print them at a very low resolution. If you're just like trying to print it generally, you can print it at a smaller scale. Of course, that won't help you with your fit, but just get into the habit of printing many times and modifying as you go, rather than trying to do all your modifications digitally and then being frustrated when you manifest it in 3 dimensions. So now we're going to actually talk about the stuff you can do in Blender to help with that fitting. We'll talk about units and measurement, which of course is the basis of this. We'll talk about the 3-axis scaling that is most natural and probably you'll use for 90% of what you need to do to make a piece fit. And then we'll talk about vertex groups. And this is the important bit that's a little bit more sophisticated and really will cover those parts of a fit where it's basically fitting, but like this one little part just doesn't fit, or it's too tight right here around the wrist, right? Vertex groups are how we solve that problem. So let's go ahead and get into that. So here we are in Blender. We're going to start by getting rid of these typical things, and then this is sort of important. We need to select our scene properties here, choose our units, and make sure we're in metric and that we're dealing with centimeters. Otherwise, when we import things, they're going to be off by a factor of 1,000. And you want to make sure that you have your measurements for your body also in centimeters. You want to use metric because otherwise, when we scale things up and down by 10, it's going to become much harder. We're going to import our STL. And in this case, this is part of the Bo-Katan Mandalorian Death Watch Gauntlet by artist April Storm from Thingiverse. I'll have a link to that below. But it looks like things have been imported. Well, when that happens, just zoom out and you're going to see, oh, wait, nope, there it is. It's just floating up in the air. This will happen sometimes when you're importing STLs. And actually, if we select it, we're going to see, if we try to move it, the origin is actually at the origin and the object's up here. So we need to right-click, set origin to geometry to put our handles in the right place. And then we can come over here and just actually set it at the origin just to make things a little bit easier for ourselves. Great. And now what we see is, oh, this is entirely too big. This is scaled up by a factor of 100. So let's take this down in every dimension to 0.01, sorry, 0.01 and 0.01 and 0.01. And we come in here and it's still several hundred centimeters. Um, but it's in the right scale. Let's go ahead and scale it down. You can, of course, do it in meters here in Blender, and then just export it and scale it down on the way out. Because if you're trying to deal with too small of things like millimeters, it can be rather difficult. Blender can have an issue, but working in centimeters usually isn't too bad. So here is our object in centimeters, 12 centimeters high and 9 centimeters wide and 8, and that's about right for a gauntlet. But let's say that we measured our arm and it needs to be just a little bit different than that. We have our measurements and we need to, like, say, stretch it out. Well, it's very easy to do that. If you have precise measurements, let's say that we know that it needs to be 15 centimeters, it's easy. We just put in 15 centimeters along that dimension and it stretches. Actually, let's say um, it's along our z-axis that we actually want to extend it. That's a little easier. Let's say it needs to be 10 centimeters. And there we go, stretches along to 10 centimeters. So you can set the exterior axes of these really easily and very precisely with these controls. And of course, you can scale it this way as well. If you need to sort of scale visibly, you can scale it up and down like that, and you can see the numbers change there as well. So those are going to be your main sort of scaling options. But the question I had is, what if there's a given piece that you need to adjust? Like you've done the main scaling along the three axes to better fit your body. But let's say that this ring here at the top, tab into edit mode, um, this ring here is just uh, too wide. It needs to tighten in to touch your arm better. Well, we can select the vertices that make up that part, and then we can scale them all together. The hardest part of this is actually selecting the vertices, so I'm afraid this is going to take me just a bit of time. In this case, I'm going to select faces, and we're going to just select these. There's lots of ways of selecting parts of an object in edit mode. Right now, I'm just literally clicking on them as I'm holding down Shift. We can draw boxes around them. The problem is the more points, and most of your imported objects are going to have lots of vertices, lots of points, the harder it is to select just the vertices that you want. So oftentimes the most time-consuming part is selecting them. And let's say we've now selected them, and this is our group of faces that we want to scale in. So you don't have to keep coming back to choosing these again. We're going to come down here to this green tab, and we're going to make a vertex group. We're going to come to this plus, and we're going to give it a name. We're going to say this is inner ring, and go assign. That assigns everything that we have just selected to that vertex group. Now we can select something else, but if we come here to select, there it is selected. So if you're going to be doing these, you want to be able to select, to create a vertex group and then select it. You can do all kinds of fun things. You can apply modifiers just to that vertex group, very sophisticated stuff, but we're just going to do simple stuff. We're going to scale it. Go here to scale, and we get those same handles, and from here we can pull this in, and we can pull this in just so, and we scale it down. We can also move it as we can scale. So let's say we want it to be just a little bit higher up, and there we go. So that's how you can, oh, we actually had that other piece selected as well. So let me deselect that other piece so it doesn't come along with us. Choose inner ring, select, and we're going to scale it just so. And we can move it just so. And that is how you can fine-tune the dimensions. One quick and easy trick. Let's say that you know how wide a circle needs to be. You're not getting specific dimensions on this selection like you would with the object itself. So sometimes it's useful to make yourself a ruler. Just go ahead and come into object mode. You're going to add a mesh. You're going to make yourself, maybe it's a cube. Cube is very large, so we're going to say this cube is going to be 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters actually, let's say it's going to be 5, in fact, because what we want to do is measure the size of our opening. It looks like our opening, and move it on up there, is now considerably larger than that. We can sort of now begin to sort of scale this down and say, okay, well, how big is that? Maybe it's 3 centimeters? Yeah, you see it's beginning to be, it's 3 centimeters in that direction. So you can then begin to scale the objects that you want. Let's go back to our vertex groups. Oh, we'll have to go back to this and then edit mode. And there's our vertex group. And we can then scale it if we need to better match our ruler that we have made. And so that's how you can select vertices, make them a vertex group, scale them, and move them to modify the small details of a pattern when the coarse-grained scaling of the object itself is not sufficient to fit something to your body. Okay, that's the information I have about scaling and sizing existing armor pieces to better fit your body. Hopefully that was useful for you. If you have future questions, please feel free to reach out to me on Instagram or post them in the comments below. I'm always happy to try to share what knowledge I have. It's not great knowledge, but I'm happy to share it. This is the point where I'm supposed to tell you to like and comment and subscribe. Please do that if it seems useful. If not, that's great too, and have great fun with your Blender journey.